Gianluca, thank you. We've come from all different parts of the world. Thanks for landing in. You just arrived a little bit ago. I came in. We're here in Los Angeles, California. So just wanted to thank you for coming over here, and pleasure to finally get to meet you in person.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight, and looking forward for having this conversation with you.
Yeah. It'll be a good time. So, one thing I think everyone knows about you is you come from a rich heritage, Italian heritage that over 1,000 years old. You have some nobility in your family generations and those sort of things. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, yeah, I grew up in this little village called Carbonera. It is about 20 minutes from Venice. I was very lucky to grow up in the countryside and surrounded by vineyards and basically I grew up with really like a big family around me and surrounded by also a fantastic environment, the hills of Prosecco with Valdobbiadene, Venice, the Dolomites, and so yeah, I basically I was raised there, and since I was a young boy, I had the opportunity to travel a lot around the world, but my roots basically always been there.
Was it, when you mentioned travel, is that a very European thing, growing up in Europe and in Italy, or was this more towards your family like to travel, and so you're always sort of traveling around?
I think it's, I think, of course, being aware of where you grow up, and yes, you mentioned Europe. Now, for the last years of my life, been living in United States. And what the main difference is, and I see also growing up in the US, it's that in Europe everything is so much easier to reach. Like you just need to know where the places are, but luckily, like Italy, that has about the 75% of the world cultural heritage, it's already like a great place to discover
just
little
going
by
within
little.
Your country.
Yeah, within my country, but then also, I always say, who lives in Europe, the opportunity, if you want, to go to Paris for dinner, or a weekend wherever you want, while in US, come tonight from New York, it's 5 hours and a half.
Exactly.
You can go to Dubai
if you wanted to straight from
exactly, for the same time.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting. So, growing up in Italy, you said you were surrounded around vineyards and stuff. Was that sort of what the type of business your family was in, or what sort of?
Well, yes, because my family has we always been like landowners and focusing on the wine business, but mostly we were basically selling the grape. And it was not until when I started like the business with the Fiol Prosecco in 2011, with the idea in 2012 like commercializing it.
And that's your company that you have?
That's the company that I started with my two partners, Giovanni and Piero Ciani Bassetti, and also their family has been always very active in the wine world. But basically, going back to our stories, when I was 18, I moved to Milano, where I spent the next basically 12 years of my life. And going back and forth, we all took different basically job position, me in the fashion industry, my partner in the finance and banking in different countries. But in the end, like we were going back to Treviso every Christmas holiday, and what brought us together was the love of our land, and we were sharing the stories that basically of our respective jobs. And so in 2011, we really were together on a Christmas dinner, and we were talking and said, why don't we basically start doing something together, leveraging on the experience on our different business, but something that was connecting with our land, with our region, with our roots, and it also maybe was an excuse to trying to go back more often there where our families are. And so basically during that time it was the beginning of this big Prosecco success. 2011 it was basically there was the introduction of the label that certified the area where the Prosecco can be produced. The time there were around 200 million bottles in the market. So it was already an important market, but far from what it is today, that it's about 650 million bottles. Wow. And our prerogative in starting this business was the question that is still nowadays the focus that, wow, it's a market so big and successful, and based also on the beverage business globally. Just to give a comparison, champagne is about 270 million bottles this year, so it's almost 3 times bigger. But there are no brands of Prosecco.
Yeah.
And so we said, how it's possible, So,
well, why was that? Because and this is my ignorance. When I looked at it, Prosecco. I mean, I know what it is now, but this is when I was younger. When you look at it, you have champagne, and then Prosecco was always perceived to be kind of this afterthought or a little bit.
Lower. Like we say the poor cousin.
Exactly. I didn't want to insult you.
No.
Exactly. It's the poor champagne.
No, because French had a very strong policy to protect their territory. The Champagne territory. Yeah. And on top of that, the producer kind of stick together to protect their territory, even with different brands, and always push to elevate the perception of the product champagne. Right. If you do that for 200 and plus years, that's what creates the marketing, the brand, and the global perception, the celebration, the popping the bottle for important occasion. You open a champagne bottle. And from there comes all the different brands of champagne that everybody knows. Now, going back to the beverage in general, you can see that this happens with many categories, of beverage, even not talking about alcohol, If I ask you how many brands of water do you know, if I ask you how many brands of vodka or tequila, or even coffee, you can tell me brands. But Prosecco, you cannot tell me brands. And I always bring the example that if you ask randomly of some of your friends, even in different countries, if they know Prosecco, 95% says yes, of course, I know Prosecco. When you ask them, can you tell me a brand of Prosecco? Nobody can tell you a brand. And it's kind of fascinating in a way, but a little shocking on the other way, that in such a big category of product of 650 million bottles, nobody can tell you a brand, even when there are other brands that are able to sell millions of bottles, but nobody were able up until now to basically create a momentum and have a reference on one brand that is globally known as this is the Prosecco. So what Fioli is doing is exactly that. We are giving up basically the large distribution in supermarket and only basically focus on on-premise premium places.
So you're restricting the supply.
Restricting the supply and focusing on, wine and beverages and like an old school business. It's about relationship, it's about trust, and the chain to get to the consumer, it's long. Because there is the
distributors.
You have to produce, you need an importer, you need a distributor, then there are the agent, then there are the bartender, the bar owner, then the bartender, and then, So you need to really say always, it's important to educate, your customer, your consumer about what's your product. Now, the first thing is about you need your product to have a very strong quality, even if there are like thousands of brands, you have to, first of all, has to be quality, and then you can really work on the on education and let's say the marketing.
Was that kind of the expertise, because there was 3 of you total, right?
Exactly.
So was that your expertise, because you've obviously
Mine
been
was
around?
more in the, of course, marketing and connecting to the
luxury
right
brands
and luxury brand, and of course what I said before, avoiding all the supermarket that give you volume, but you pay completely, because the perception of Prosecco in general is that I come to you, you have an amazing restaurant, but then I go around the corner, there is a cheap supermarket and I sell my product anyway. I don't care, I just sell more cases. This is the mentality of Prosecco no matter what. That's exactly the reason why people go to a supermarket, they have 10 brands of Prosecco, they don't know anything about it, and they just buy sometimes based on the price, and that's it. The thing is that the question is, know what are you drinking, because the volume of Prosecco exploded when we came to mixology, and very well with the spritz, and starting before with the Bellini, the most 2 classic drinks that you do with Prosecco. The problem is that many times people are tricked, because even the bartenders that are serving, the clients don't even know what they're putting in their drink, and it cannot even be sometimes Prosecco, it's maybe sometimes mix on wine, and so restaurateurs think, I'm gonna save $1, $2, $3 on that, but the thing is that people, like, no matter what, are getting more knowledgeable around what they are having. So you can continue for a bit this, but in the end of the day, people are going to choose what is better for them, what they recognize for as a quality product versus just a mass product.
So is there a difference within Prosecco specifically? And I think this is very helpful. Is the better quality give you less of a hangover?
Is not really like less of an hangover, but of course there are like many differences. But it's really about in terms of course personal taste. Talking with some of really like one of the most wine expert in the world. Like one thing that he told me was, Gianluca, nowadays it's very difficult to make a bad wine, because today technology
covers a lot of mistakes.
Covers a lot of mistakes, But of course, there are still like incredible winemaker that have a wine that are not able to sell because they cannot communicate it in the right way, and very cheap wine
that are able to market it well, and they sell
millions of bottles. So the truth is, in the end, in the middle, as I said, having a quality that is excellent and above the average, and positioning it in the way that is still, available in terms of price point, because that's another factor that really influence massively a market that is so big. By the same time, always providing and basically be true to yourself,
of course,
to how you started the process, and positioning your product where you think it's the right customers, And
so how do you determine? How did you go about determining the price point?
The price point where there are like ranges, and there are like you choose basically from basically how you make your product, the packaging, of course, but then also the way you approach the market. The thing is that this also comes from fashion. Anything that is discounted in a way, it's perceived cheap by the consumer.
Yeah, of course. And sometimes you can't break that.
And that's also the reason that when you go to the supermarket and you see these piles of cases of Prosecco 50% off, the perception is immediately cheap.
Yeah, of course.
If you do that for 30 years,
they never escape
that's
it.
why, the same thing, the perception versus champagne is completely different. Right. We don't want... it's not a fight between champagne and Prosecco. It's not that. The thing that it's interesting is this shift of attitude towards the sparkling wines that started around 2008, when there was the big crisis worldwide, and people started to basically try to find alternative to champagne when it came to celebration, right?
Yeah.
And before, the sparkling was only basically perceived for celebration, New Year's Eve, birthdays, parties, like clubs, and stuff like that. And always till nowadays, when you have to pop a bottle of champagne, you think about it. Is it the right occasion?
Of course. Yeah, you hear the pop. The pop is like some sort of celebration,
but also it's cost effective. With Prosecco, people discover a very good quality wine that sometimes people prefer to champagne, and it's affordable. So if you pop a bottle, you don't really have to think about it. Even if you don't finish it,
of course.
But you still have, the thing of you can celebrate every day.
Yeah,
because you can pop a bottle every day.
You keep popping it.
And then this happened, and it was really a cultural change in the palate of the people, where people start drinking sparkling wine on a daily basis, even for lunch.
And that's where you see the explosion.
And then the aperitivo, and then it came this mixology factor. It's basically, Prosecco is the only wine in the world that you can mix with anything.
Well, they actually have it. I remember it was probably around 2010. They had it on tap, like at bars, like on tap, like a beer.
Yeah.
They have the Prosecco.
But there is still, you can find it. But even there, you really don't know. Like there are sometimes bottles they can sell. Yeah. In United States, that sell for $2, $3.
Yeah, it's crazy. You have no idea. You have no idea. You have no idea what you're drinking.
So that's really the point,
So when you have two business partners that were your friends from back home.
Yeah.
So, I think that a lot of people, they look to go into business with friends or family, and oftentimes, everyone says, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
How has it been working with friends, and were you guys nervous about working together, or were you afraid of ruining the friendship?
Well, I think we came into this creating this company together after already like 7-8 years that we were into other business, working with big companies, so bring some experience with us, but also knowing that we were bringing on the table very different experience, and I think that was the key of never
not too much overlapping
each other, and instead creating this let's say magical deal in a way that everyone brings their know-how. And the thing that also helps is because I play rugby for 9 years for Benetton Treviso, and also for the national team in Italy. I play World Cup with them.
Oh, really?
So
okay,
they were
so
also my
teammates,
rugby mates. And rugby has this give this incredible life lesson of humility, but also the teamwork that deliver then possibly a try, the score, you know? And rugby is a metaphor because you have to score going forward, but you have to pass the ball always backwards. So is this thing that it's
the dynamic between the two.
Have
you found that to be relevant within the different, the fashion industry and also now the spirits industry that you're in, like the same thing?
I see that what I really learn, and like seeing also great entrepreneur like at work, is that when you're an entrepreneur, basically you have to keep solving problems on a daily
There's
basis,
always problems,
and it's non-stop. So it's above all at the beginning, it's very easy to basically get down and really see a mountain in front of you to climb, but in the end it's the difference is exactly that, and the more you learn, the more you see that the execution of the idea in the end of the day is the key. Above all, from the Italian point of view, I think Italians are incredible in terms of entrepreneurship and ideas, but many times have great ideas, but then not
the execution.
The execution is the problem. In US, it's I think where I learn where it's the execution and the business are key for the success.
Ideas they say are cheap, and then execution is key.
Yeah, exactly. So. But going back, I do believe in teamwork, absolutely, and I think even more nowadays than in the past.
So the key around working with friends is kind of making sure you don't have too much overlap as far as the skill set you're bringing to the table. And then everyone having clearly defined roles within the team,
and be open to accept when someone has more knowledge in something than you do, and so that's the endless learning experience where you put yourself in a place of learning.
Were you always able to do that, or is that something as you got a little bit older?
No, you get. I think it's stages, you know, and also, when you're young, you get frustrated more easily, you know, or you can maybe snap, or you think to know more, and then
ego,
and then. You compare yourself, with you need to be able to compare yourself with the best one that are out there, and I think also there in a way rugby becomes handy because it's a very democratic sport. Any different body type can play, and many times you see the small guy that is able to tackle someone that is 3 times the size, but put him down.
Yeah, of
So
course.
it's the mental attitude towards something that in the end makes the difference.
Yeah, no, that's very, very, very interesting. So, with your business, you obviously are distributing and working in many different countries throughout Europe.
Yeah.
You mentioned the United States. How is that kind of understanding the different cultures? From my business, we distribute hotels in Italy, France. The French are different than the Italians. The Brits are different than the people from the Middle East, and then everyone's different. You have the Americans are different than, say, people from Asia. How do you adapt in business, do you find?
Well, especially with alcohol, that said it's an old school business, so every country has different rules.
Yeah.
Then, within United States, every state has different rules. So it's interesting, and it's every country you have to approach it in different ways. UK, number one for sparkling, but it's generally speaking a highly discounted market.
Right.
So you want to enter in the market, but also not really go all in and playing the game of the highly discounted, because we go back to what we were saying before. You dilute the image
brand
of your products, and so trying to find strong partners within the country that has the same business model applied to their business, very strong chains. For example, one of our strongest partner in the country is Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
And they have about 13 restaurants that we work with them. So you activate marketing activities,
through strong partners.
And it's much easier to work with a group like Gordon Ramsay, that they already have in their DNA this approach of marketing toward the brands they work with, because they can leverage on that to increase
awareness
in
market
on your clients,
and the right type of client.
Yes, and then we work with other countries like Canada, and Canada is still a monopoly, so you work with basically the government, and where the rules keep changing. You have to keep updated, constantly with that. But in the end, now we're in Canada for the last 4 years is our second biggest market so far. We're very happy how things are going. Canadians love Fiol. They drink
that's
more
always
and
good.
more Prosecco. But as you were saying, it's very challenging. You have to be constantly updating on what's the changes, and now we're in a very important phase for us, because we have a presence in the United States. Now we are basically changing the asset of our imports and distribution in the country, and so we look forward to really approach it in the next month to come, or in 2020, and make it. Our goal would be to make it US our number one country.
Well, yeah, there's a large market of people that like sparkling.
Opportunity.
Huge opportunity. So, I know one of the most interesting things about your background is, you said you moved to Milan, which is the fashion capital of the world. Why Milan? Milano? What made you go there? How'd you get into fashion?
It was, when it was the in the end, I never really liked to study. I was more on the field, playing rugby. But then I moved to Milan for studying university, and I attended Ulm, and so my two friends did the same, different university. But then I had this opportunity when I was basically 21, and when I came to Milan, I didn't know anyone apart my couple of friends, and I started connecting with some other people, and Milan is not like a big city, so it was this I created this new group of friends, and after about like a couple of years that I was there, completely out of the blue, I got this offer from Armani.
Yeah, never heard of it.
To start an internship there, and so I basically got this opportunity immediately, and they hired me after like 6 months, and that's how I started. And I stayed there like 8 years, and it was one of the biggest and rewarding experience in my life, because Armani back then was really like probably the biggest PR machine in the fashion world, and they was the one that initiate all the red carpet and around the world, and also the attitude of having celebrity wearing dresses on red carpet.
Yeah, and I remember the first time I made any money, I had like the big accomplishment to me was being able to buy an Armani suit.
And it's a status that that he created in people's mind, and it was an incredibly strong force and DNA that connected the people to
so
the brand.
He was basically one of the he was ahead of his time, utilizing influencers, celebrities,
and it was the first one to open satellite offices around the world for public relations. It was the first one to open in Los Angeles, Tokyo, and Sydney, all over the world, where
nobody had ever done that.
Nobody ever done it. And so really like it was so much ahead of the game, and then everybody follow.
Yeah.
And then a little bit the industry change, based also on the advent of social media, and the brand had to keep up, but they didn't have the leverage of 30 years of public relations. So the industry changed in a way that before was really an exchange between a designer and a celebrity, and was that, and then it started to be more endorsement and other
to pay
things,
for it,
and I think also celebrity became more aware of their
brand,
leverage, their image on the media in general.
So how old were you then? You were in your 20s?
I was 21. I was just turned 21.
So you're 21. You're a good-looking Italian man working for Armani and PR, working with some of the world's top celebrities in Milan.
It was an incredible experience, incredible rewarding, and I created my basically network that I still have nowadays, and I work with incredible people, professional that now are in the
key positions,
top brand in the industry, and we're still in contact, and it's I think it's really special.
Who were there any like people that you remember that you really enjoyed working with, like celebrity wise?
Well, I have to say, like they were all the way that I think I experienced that. It's also was the way they approach Armani. For them was always like an honor working, with the brand so special. So I always saw the very human side of them before the image, that in general maybe people
that's
see
normal
on TV,
because people don't know them.
So it was incredible, and also to see like how humble in a way they are. And I was when I said I was in my early 20s. It's all completely new to me.
Well, I mean, I bet you when you went back with those stories back home, yeah,
It was,
who did you see this time? You know, and wanting to know. Must have been very exciting for your family to just hear.
No, it was fun.
It's like, so I bet you if you think back on it now, it's like crazy. You know, if you think about everywhere that you went and the events that you were a part of, the people that you met during that time, and then how much you learned during.
Exactly.
Yeah, were there any takeaways? So I know working for Armani, there were several takeaways. I mean, it kind of shaped your career and your vision around the way, probably you approach life and your career. Just added another perspective, to your skill set. Was there something that you remember somebody taught you along the way that kind of stuck inside of your head that maybe is very relevant today?
Well, I think, as I was saying before, the dedication and the attitude towards the work, like every day, no matter what, and doesn't matter how big is the company, but it's the responsibility that you carry with you towards your employees that really give an extra push to the mission.
So you kind of empower them, have them buy into the vision.
And be always an example for the others, And so if you're able to do that, I think you do really have a chance to grow a big organization around you, because it's something, it's like gasoline that never ends.
Never ends. It just keeps burning and burning and burning.
Yeah, exactly. So, and also at the same time is, age, if you're in good health, age is not an excuse, you know. When I started working, Mr. Armani was 71.
Yeah. That's
so
crazy.
It's, and he was like in his 30s.
Yeah.
So that was another thing that I would say, I feel tired.
You're like, come on, he's 71. He's 50 years older than
brings you back
come back to reality.
Exactly.
You should have more energy
exactly.
than the 71-year-old at that time. No, it's interesting. But do you think like a lot of that, if you look at Mr. Armani, do you think some of what fueled his passion and his energy, because when you look at as you get older, right, which is inevitable for all of us, there are people, I was having this conversation on Saturday night at dinner. There's some people who at 70 are young. And then there's some people at 70, they seem very old. They're tired and here. Same even at 50, even at 60, the same sort of thing. Do you think it was his passion for what he was doing?
I think it all comes from our mind, our brain.
Yeah.
And now say the brain is a muscle. So if you don't work on it, then unfortunately the body follows and actually deteriorate faster. And so it's keep yourself in with the mindset of being, trained every day.
Challenging yourself.
Is challenging in the end, challenging yourself, but also with small action, And then I think that works also in the end. We were talking before about, relationship, you got married recently, and it's exactly that. It's the relationship is the long-term
like a muscle.
It's like that. You have to keep challenge yourself to then grow and basically evolve.
Together.
Evolve together, and it's really like I do believe that strongly, and understand the space that you give to your work, you give to your family, as a very I think strong connection, because in a way one feed the others.
You have to feed off of each other and creates that energy off one another. So when you look at, Italian, so fashion being around one of the world's most renowned brands, Armani, and then now you've transitioned into a new career outside of the company that you started. Can you tell us how you transitioned where you are today with Moncler?
Where I'm today is that the last 8 years I've been working with Moncler. It's been a fantastic journey. Been very lucky to work with such really forward team entrepreneur, and so the last basically 4 years I've been here in United States, and as I was saying before, like it was at Armani, like the thing is that balancing like the time between the priorities and the business, but also leveraging on the fact that there are a very lot of similarities towards the approach, even if it's completely different businesses.
So is it fashion when you look at it? I mean, it seems as though you have a passion for fashion, or at least that industry.
Absolutely. I ended in the fashion industry by total coincidence. It was not like my dream.
You didn't.
But then I really like the business, and that's why I'm still in after almost 15 years.
So what are some okay, I'm an American guy. I like to feel I have a little bit of European flair sometimes, but just a man out there looking for some fashion tips from an Italian man in the fashion industry.
Well, I'm probably I have to confess the way I like to dress is usually very classic. When I'm in LA, I'm a little bit more
I think sporty. All of us. Exactly. You have to be, otherwise you look odd here.
But generally speaking, what I really enjoy fashion-wise is going to my tailor in Milano and having that, and then I actually choose my things from him, and I'm on the opposite way. That is the trend nowadays. That is like
dress down.
No, and it's also it's like streetwear. Like in all the big brands. That I think it's still very like can give very powerful message, and it's a current, that the streetwear. And I always like more the tailoring part of.
I follow some on Instagram. You see, the most amazing suits and designs and the cuts.
Because in the end, no matter what is the brand that you wear in terms of suits, nothing will fit you best than a bespoke suit made on you.
So do you think
it's and in the end it's marketing also that
you're
you
marketing
create a
yourself.
perception that you say, yes, I wear that brand, I feel cool, but in the end it's how you look, because the brand is not out here, it's inside your jacket.
It's inside. Nobody
see,
knows.
It's only how you look.
Do you think, is it an Italian thing where the clothes make you feel more confident, or when you have I know for myself, like there's nothing better than when you have, say, like a well-tailored suit and it fits you perfectly. I mean, and when you have that shirt that you look good on because it, maybe hangs off of you the right way, or those sort of things, or clothes. It's not about the brand; it's the confidence that it gives you.
But I think the confidence is apart. The suits can be in even like wearing a t-shirt. It doesn't matter. You need to really be confident on what you wear. On the other side, there are like people that even decide to wear like a uniform.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a uniform when you wear like a pair of jeans and a black t-shirt.
Right.
It's because let's say you don't waste time in the morning to choose,
think about
I
what you
do
want.
the blue shirt or the pink
Yeah.
one, or you just wear something and you go to work.
Yeah.
And you kind of cut a big,
Yeah,
you know,
the decision.
the
you know.
decision. Oh my God. So it's
I don't think that's
also,
you, by the way.
no, it's not me.
It's not
I
me either.
enjoy, I know what I like.
Yeah.
You know, I have certain things, and then I enjoy, instead of going shopping in the store, I like to go to my tailor and choose fabrics.
Yeah, the fabrics, the colors, you want, patterns.
Exactly, and decide how I want the lapel and I want the button. And it's like, it's more like kind of a shopping experience, a little bit more private.
So you know, when I you know, one of the things when going to Italy, you know, you notice you know, the Italian men are, you know, I just remember I was walking through Italy and I was with my girlfriend at the time, and you know, I was actually in Venice, and you go to, you know, they're like "Bea, bea, bea," you know, calling out and those sort of things. You know, so I guess
you don't want to know what they say.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I want to know what they say. That's what I was asking. You already knew where I was going with it. Of course, that's what I want to know what they say. I mean, we could say it in a nice way.
Yeah.
But
I'd say it's part of the folkloristic and colorful, like Italian way of you know, life that is, you know, nothing. Nothing bad, but there is like one funny like thing in my family, that Nina Craig was the aunt of my father, and there is this famous picture from Ruth Orking, the photographer, called American Girl in Italy.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah, of course, you might never.
And there is this young, beautiful woman walking the streets of Florence in 1950s, and there are literally 12 men that they don't know each other, 12 men in the street looking at her, staring, and it's and she's just walking. There is this scene that is captured, and the story is that when after a few months she was there studying, she took the boat back to US, and when she arrived to US, that picture was everywhere. It was American Girl in Italy. You know, and it's still nowadays like one of the most famous picture. And Nina Lee was an incredible woman. Unfortunately, she passed like a couple of years ago. But that was exactly what you described. That today, above all, in the time where we live, it was seen a little bit probably in a more aggressive, you know, that way. But
it's all part of the Italian culture, you know. But it's not a bad thing. I just always enjoy it, and it's always just you know, part of the charm, you know, of the Italian way. They're also, you know, when you go through Europe, and especially the Italians, are very passionate about football.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, I had never been to a game in Italy until this last year. I went to watch Juventus against Florence. And I mean, you go in the whole, I mean, they have the glass dividers coming down, it's and like, the people are going crazy, banging on them. Is that something that, you know, you were passionate about as well, watching football, soccer?
No, I would say not that much, even because Treviso, where I come from, was a city where there was like rugby, basketball, volleyball, and then cycling.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, they were the top sport. Soccer was never been like a
Huge
huge. So I didn't grow up under the influence of that, but of course my memories of soccer has been always the World Cup when Italy was playing, and it was something that the entire country was feeling and is still
2006.
feeling strongly. 2006. No, we don't mention the last World
No,
Cup.
no,
We
no,
didn't
no,
even
no.
qualify.
Don't worry, I'm American, so you know, we can't talk about. We didn't make it.
Exactly.
So it's okay.
But of course, going to Milano, then I experienced that in another level, going to watch the games of Inter Milan and AC Milan and the incredible competition between the two teams. I said small city, so you were feeling it
very much. The rivalry that existed there.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you look, you've been married now for 2 years?
Yeah.
So how did you meet your wife? How did you guys?
We met in Paris, so
your wife, some people may know her, some people may not, right?
Yeah. yeah. And so we met in Paris many years ago, and then we've been together since it was 2012.
Yeah.
And so. Now we're happily married with a baby.
Yeah. Did you ever think, you know, because most people have these goals in life, you know, I'm going to marry, you know, Brad Pitt or, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio or here, these sort of things, or, you know, everyone has, you know, like Marilyn Monroe, this one or that one. Did you ever think that you'd marry, you know, a beautiful actress that?
No, it was not really like... and it was not for me like a goal.
It's not your goal. Yeah, it wasn't your goal.
It's like so and the thing is that nothing really like changed much, I have to say, like in the end, because I was already like in that like environment.
Right. So you understood what it was.
Yeah,
you were
exactly.
aware
I knew already, like in a way, and the big thing is always like, of course, traveling a lot, traveling with the family.
Yeah.
That's basically the main thing that is just a logistic always.
Of course, like, and different. Your careers are in different places and those sort of things. Is there something a marriage tip you have? I'm 10 months into marriage now, so are there any tips or advice you have?
No, as I was saying, it's a teamwork. It's a teamwork, and you will see, you know.
Pass the ball back to move forward.
You will have, you know, also babies and the relationship shift. But then the thing that even like before I met, you know, Jessica, and my mother always said, you know, to be in a relationship, you need to want it every day to be together.
Yeah.
Because if you don't want it or you don't work on it, above all nowadays, it's easy to basically say, you go your way, I go my way, I have the options, and you know, in a ways, you want to be, the thing is the committed, you know, the commitment towards someone, and when there is a commitment, is you really like
put effort and
put the efforts, and that's really also the love. It's about that, you know, like, and I say relationship evolves, you know, so.
Well, you grow together, like, as life changes. So,
and that's I think the most beautiful thing, you know, and of being also in a relationship.
That's good. Good advice. Every day, make sure come ready to work on my relationship and evolve together and work together.
Yeah, don't give it for granted.
Yeah. That's actually a great way to put it. I think that's like with most things in life. You know, it's easy now the world, people have changed, mindsets changed for instant gratification. And so you take everything for granted oftentimes, life, your job, being able to travel,
or
what you've
the
experienced.
position, that you have. It's like never give it for granted. And
like I'm entitled to it, those sort of things. Yeah, no, it becomes problematic.
Yeah.
So, you're in Milan, right? You've spent lots of time in Milan. We've got to get some inside travel tips from somebody that's lived there. What's your favorite restaurant to go to, sort of a local place?
Well, definitely like the best restaurant, there are many great restaurants in Milano, luckily for us.
I'd imagine so.
And probably the three best one, it's Langosteria, that is this incredible fish restaurant that they have 4 different ones, and it's really a must if you go to Milano. And then there is Davide Oldani, that is this chef that Michelin star, just outside Milano, but exquisite food from the Milanese tradition. And then there is Carlo Cracco, that is another very famous chef that has this beautiful restaurant inside the Galleria Vittorio Emanuele, where the Duomo is. And it's all 3 this restaurant is really like beyond like the food, and you enter like in a place where you really have an experience, and you can bring anyone in the world, and you're sure that they're going to
they're going to enjoy it.
In terms of
is that something between your Prosecco brand at Moncler, like the experience? Are you finding that you're having you want to create that experience for your customer?
But absolutely yes, and I think with Fiol the idea is, as I was saying, we're working a lot towards the experience of mixology. And I think mixology nowadays is really a mixologist. Bartenders in the world, they are becoming like what they were chef like 10 years ago. 10 years ago, chefs were in the kitchen doing their job. Nobody knew them.
Who they were.
Today they are superstars, the chef. And so with cocktail is happening a little bit the same, because when you have a good cocktail, you remember it and you want another one. And there is an art behind that. And the art comes from mixologists that are like artists, the good mixology, not the vodka tonic.
No, that's like, not a mixologist.
But it's an experience, and it's like also the entertainment, because making a cocktail in front of you, it's a form of entertainment. It's also strictly connected to social media and wanted to share that experience with someone else. So it's like when you take a picture of something that you eat, and so we are really focusing on that experience, engaging and training and educating the bartenders we work with, and the restaurant we work with, and it's called How Do You Feel? The program that it's that it really comes on how do you feel in front of the different cocktails that you have.
That's very interesting. So last question I have for you. You've traveled all around the world. What's your favorite place to travel to?
I say probably a cliche, when it's home. Like when I go home in Treviso. But I would to say like Veneto region. I almost actually compare it a lot to California, because Veneto, it's a region where within 1 hour you have the Lake of Garda,
Yeah.
and Verona. The Dolomites with Cortina, the most beautiful mountain in the world. Going down, you have the Val Tobiadene, that is the land of Prosecco, that is since 6 months part of the UNESCO heritage, most incredible places in the world. Then you go down another half an hour, you have Venice.
Yeah.
So you have mountains, lakes, and sea
all within 1 hour.
Within 1 hour by car.
Yeah.
That it's pretty incredible, and hills, so in one region you basically have all completely landscapes,
different climates,
all completely different climates. That's also why Prosecco is only made there, because it's this contrast of currents and winds comes from the north and from the mountains and from the sea, and really meets.
Okay, that's why that region is the only region that can actually grow the Prosecco.
Besides that, I'm a very big fan of Italy, as you can imagine. So I really enjoying a lot Sardinia, and but I have to say the best vacation, in my opinion, with family or friends, is always being on a boat, small or big, whatever, but in the Mediterranean Sea, and the possibility of every day waking up in a different place along the coast. And that is the best experience you can ever have.
That to me is summer right there. That is the epitome of summer. You go, you stop, and you bounce.
And your shower is jumping in the morning.
It's the best thing. You jump in
the
go.
sea, and having fresh fish, and really enjoying it. So that to me is the best vacation, really, in general.
Well, I thank you so much for your time.
Thanks to you.
Glad we were able to connect, and lots of insightful words, and congrats to you on your business and the rest of your career, and of course with your marriage and your little one that you have there.
Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Ciao.
Thank you. Ciao. Bye.
And that's a wrap for today's business class. Enjoy today's podcast? Feel free to leave a review on iTunes or share this episode with a friend. Want more Hotel Boss in your life? Who doesn't? Subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on Instagram. Simply look up @TheHotelBoss. Until next time, Hotel Boss out!